Thank you very much. Welcome everyone to our, we're going to be starting with a zoning meeting to start. So we're going to call the zoning meeting to order. Madam Clerk. 6:30.
Be it resolved that this public meeting for zoning amendments now open at 6:30 p.m. Moved by Deputy Mayor Densham, seconded by Councillor McDonald.
All in. There we go.
When we get an economic developer, I'll want them to read it because the eastern side of our municipality, especially, when you look at the details in there, how people actually come and make a multi-day vacation of the Highland Games, and they're looking for other things like restaurants and other activities to take advantage of. Like I say, especially the eastern side of our municipality, I think there are some businesses out there who could take advantage of the opportunity that's before them in advertising at the games or near the games or around the games to take advantage of that traffic that's coming in, and just making it an even bigger experience for anybody who comes. So I would suggest any businesses who, and I'll try to pass this out to our business network as well, but any businesses, especially those on the eastern side, have a good read of that. Because even as I was reading it, and I don't own a business, but I could think of a few interesting opportunities that could be presented that could create some traffic and some repeat traffic for businesses in North Stormont. Really good read, Peter.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Just follow up on that quick note on the chronic lack of hotel space in our region. So encourage everybody for next year. If you have extra space, start an Airbnb because you'll be able to make some money during the Highland Games.
Yeah. So, see no further questions. All in favor of the accepting the impact study of the games? Motion's carried. Moving on to shipping containers.
Be it resolved that council receives the planning report regarding shipping containers for information purposes. Moved by Councillor Bajelli, seconded by Councillor McDonald.
Any discussions on what was proposed by administration? Go ahead, Councillor McDonald.
The only thing I was thinking about, and I know he's here today, but we had talked about maybe visually making it either look half decent or painted or something like that. I know that's not something we can necessarily require, but I'd suggest it just to have it look not like a shipping container.
Presently, they're not allowed
Anywhere.
Yeah.
So, no, I know.
here.
But if we were going to be looking at allowing,
Oh, yeah.
you know, that would be that's still a bit of a concern. The look of it.
For the specific project here. So Monsieur Lavictoire is present with us as he had done the delegation at the last meeting. So there's stuff that evolved as the time went by. So we do have a potential. It's not a container. It's, I don't know what you call it, a concrete, which is present at the old Borough School. So there was 2 or 3 of them, like.
There's 2 at the south end, you do one corridor, it's big, right? And the other one is has to move this in the parking lot.
Yeah.
You hear me?
Yeah. So thank you. So there's been some headway. There was discussions with the citizens or the trail committee, and they would gladly use that, which is a 10 by 15 foot building, roughly, steel doors. So any kind of vandalism, they would have to work pretty hard to. But in regards to containers, and I'm just speaking as one individual here, but I think a lot of time we did get at one time a request for in a subdivision, where when you're looking into a subdivision, you're bringing in a container and you can't put it into, whether it's in the driveway. I completely agree. We have to abide by the bylaw. We are rural, and when you get into other aspects, I don't know if there's a way to work around common sense. I like to use the word common sense, but if somebody puts it where it's out of, and a prime example for the trail, which is nowhere close to any individual. I understand if a neighbor comes in and has issues with it, we have to listen. But there's a lot of times where it's not, the impact is where it's in the middle of nowhere. You've got something that can be useful. So I'm just putting thoughts out there as far as how, and maybe Peter could also help us in as far as writing a proper from neighboring municipalities. If you could add on to that type of demand?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Laundry. So this type of restriction is fairly common, but there are other municipalities. I know South Stormont just updated theirs just last week, I think, that have a little bit more flexibility for the rural and the agricultural areas. As you said, the subdivisions is not usually where people would want them to be put, especially just the closeness of all the houses gets harder to screen, but you definitely can have in your bylaw where they're permitted with subject to screening from the road. Right now, it's only commercial and industrial, and that's a fairly common provision. But I've worked one in South Stormont before where we did permit it in the rural and agricultural, subject to screening provisions and setbacks and everything like that. So it wasn't a visual. You're not driving down the road; you just see shipping containers everywhere. I think that's why most municipalities do not permit them, but Nealt, our recommendation is just to receive this for information purposes, but council could direct us to look at that township wide or just for the specific property. This location, again, right against commercial, so but it's zoned residential one right now, the trail, so it isn't permitted at this time. But even if it was open space, it wouldn't be permitted either.
Councilor Bajelli?
My thoughts on this are kind of echoing yours, Mayor Landry, is that there has to be common sense. I think broad stroke bylaw change to shipping containers is a terrible idea. Makes total sense in this case. I like one of the alternative, obviously leaning towards site specific zoning amendments, so that it does have to kind of come to us as opposed to just a broad that can be misinterpreted, or sending our bylaw officer out to everyone saying, well, this isn't the spirit of the law. So I think we really have to look at these as one-offs. In this case, it's very clear what it's used for. And I think there's the capability to make it happen, but I think that's where we kind of need to keep the reins tight.
For tonight, we're not, we're just accepting the report, so there's nothing in, maybe it is something that could be potentially brought back. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Lynch.
Yeah. I'm sort of a bit on the other side of the fence where I don't like exceptions, because exceptions are always viewed as favoritism. So from my perspective, I know we've had members of the public who wanted to have a shipping container and actually wanted to cover it so it looked more like a wooden building, which again, I don't know. I'm assuming that he could have simply had a building that was that same size without a shipping container, and that would have been perfectly fine. So that choosing to put a shipping container just gives you that added layer of safety, I think, from vandalism and those types of things. So personally, not to say that we should just allow it, I don't think we should, but if there was some way that we could look at it so that there is clear provisions for when we can and when we can't, and what if you want to have one, how it would have to fit within the building code. You know, I just think that if we make exceptions, it's going to it'll make one person happy and potentially 10 or 20 people. So I'd rather look at this to make sure that what we're doing is something that we could repeat for somebody else, because we have a clear definition on why we allowed it, and therefore somebody else could receive it as well. The other question on this specific one is, if there's commercial property next door and it's potentially a very friendly commercial endeavor next door, can we not just set it on their property and have access to it from the users of the trail, whether or not whether that's been looked at?
Then I think you would fall under liability, though, why
Maybe
that.
Yeah.
No, so like I said, it's for another discussion. I don't know, like you get a steel structure and you finish it off in a nice clad finish and stuff, and that's your shed. To have a container and then to finish it. So is there a difference between having a wood structure and you've got a nice finish all the way around, which is a typical shed, or have a container and you finish it all the way around where you don't know it's a container? Does that qualify as not being a container if it's just for the structure to hold up? But the
Yeah,
finish,
there are definitely bylaws that would just put that in the definition that if it's completely clad in siding, it's not defined as a shipping container yet. But typically, if it's a shipping container, I know some municipalities, even if it's a conversion, they would look at it as the base is still a shipping container, because again, it's hard to get design controls, and a lot now with the new provisions to the building code for not requiring permits under 160 square feet, then a lot of these would not even require permits. So it's hard to, basically it just goes to the bylaw official. I can also advise council that in the next month or so, we're getting a report from the planning consultant that's doing all the SD&G zoning bylaws. One of their preliminary recommendations is to consider permitting these in the ag and rural zones, subject to being located in rear yard and screened from a view of the street. So if council, in our report, we talk about the 3 recommendations: receiving for information, amending for this specific property, or looking at the rules for the township as a whole. I'd expect the rules for the township as a whole would be coming to council probably early in the new year, by the time we prepare all the public meeting. But we'll give an update on the major changes to the bylaw, and perhaps could be discussed that time, probably in I'd say maybe December or January.
Okay, so for tonight, like I said, the report, and again, in this circumstance, it's a fit, but 2 over, where do you draw the line? And it does become where you can't favor one and not the other, and then that's when we get into debates that we don't wish to be had. So moving on, so to accept again just the report on the containers, all in favor? Motion's carried. Moving on to budget amendment of purchase of a new half-ton truck.
That council approves the purchase of a new half-ton truck to replace the current 2007 Chevrolet truck, moved by Deputy Mayor Densham, seconded by Councilor McDonald.
Any questions in regards to budget amendment? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Densham.
Just the fact that this is a budget amendment, it's a old truck, and it's got 400,000 kilometers on it. That's something that we probably should have anticipated. And I'm not saying that to pointing out Public Works. I think it's the challenge that we have with asset management as a whole. This is something that I'd like to see us plan for, so that, you know, we know we're going to buy it. We knew this truck would have that many kilometers on it at budget time last year. Rather than amending this year and playing it tight, I would prefer to have these types of discussions at budget time. So
We did.
and why are we amending the budget then?
Well, we proposed it in the budget time to replace the truck. And it was a budget cut to put $30,000 into reserve for a half-ton truck.
Right, and if I read this right, you're going to reallocate some from paving. to
Yes.
Asphalt work and put it over to here.
Yeah.
So what asphalt work then won't get done that we?
It was brought before that, yes, the contractors, the time that we got our budget approved, and we had a road tour discussed about overlay and asphalt in the villages. At that time, contractors already had their season booked, and so we had to delay that unless we wanted to pay. There's 2 ways to do it. They'll do the work, but they're going to charge a hefty price to get it, because they have to get their year-end work done under the contracts that they have already. So it all depends on the fall. I approached the 3 various contractors in the area that does road paving, and they weren't interested in bidding on the work that we were proposed to do in the villages. So, but you know, honestly, if you put it out at whenever they're booked, it's you know you're going to pay a higher price to do the work, because they already, when they tell you they already booked for the year, they can't take on any more major projects. And that's just a known fact that they put a price in, but it's going to be really high. So we held that off. and said we could put that back into the working reserve. Well, I guess it goes in the general, but my friend at the counties said that the way the counties do it is they put any capital projects of public works into a public works working reserve for the next year or whenever.
Okay, so we're basically, what we're saying is we're not gonna spend this money anyhow, so let's reallocate it to the
Yeah.
truck for now, and so.
And in the report, whenever the truck was still mobile at budget time, it had some, after a little while, it had some vibration, and then in the front end and investigation into it, we found multiple components or wore out or at the point of wearing out, where to actually fix it, we had I think it's in there, the parts were about $3,500. So it's the truck was wore out. We tried to make it run through the year, but whenever we seen the hefty bill, we took it off the road and wait till the end of the year to see if we do have any surplus money to replace it. And now this is the time that I approached council to see if they will consider.
Okay, yeah, no, it makes sense. And so, and I think we're trying to push the budget earlier so that
Yeah.
we don't run into this. So hopefully everybody's getting their budget inputs in
Yeah.
as quickly as possible so that we can be a little bit more aggressive on getting the budget done. So thank you.
So on that, as mentioned, my predecessor, there you go. As a little Frenchman there, that's a tough one. No, they always seem to want to do a later budget and have more accurate numbers, where I'm starting to see in this new world of services trying to get or ordering to add to your fleet takes so long now. And what happens is you need to be ahead of the game too. So I think we've all talked where we're pushing for an earlier budget and trying to ratify in February instead of April, or I'm not sure when we did last year, but anyways, it was later. So for Aqua's issues of needing the ratification of our budget before they can even start, puts them in behind the 8 ball when we're getting to the 5 months in. So that's something that we are working on this year to speed up matters. Now, as far as the truck itself, so we have 2 of our trucks that are under 2 years that are, so from what I can see with this one at 400,000 kilometers, I'm guessing that the other 2 that were replaced were not much better. So we've utilized every out of our vehicles, is from what I can see in the last 3 that we've purchased.
Yes, the way we kind of process it, like the truck we're basically dropping down is a 2018. Right now it has 243,000 kilometers. We put that, basically cycle that down into the public work, because nowadays it's a lot more running around. If it's a sign goes down, this and that, where with the work crew we have, I mean, if you only have a spare half ton and mechanic, or you're on a job, the cheapest equipment to run would be a half ton. To run the big trucks around and do kind of this kind of work, it makes us more efficient, more productive. Whenever you can send a person one direction to do a small job and get these small jobs done and not have to wait for get a truck back.
Perfect. So any further discussions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. So moving on to 7.5, approval of over tendering and contact delivery.
That council approves the request to take over the tendering and contract delivery administration portion of the engineer's proposal, moved by Councillor Bajelli, seconded by Councillor McDonald.
Any questions from, or possibly Mary or Lake, does someone maybe want to just give us an overview of what this is, truly entails in?
We, I shouldn't say we didn't give you all the facts, but there's a name in there that we didn't want to divulge. Who, the way that the process worked with Aqua, they have a bidding list that they can actually award projects to, and so the generator projects for the 3 water plants was awarded to our engineering company for design, and so then in that design, that the prices were fairly high, but there's also in that awarding of that tender, they also had the option to do the contract administration and the tendering. So with the experience that the Public Works had and doing the generator in at the Finch North Stormont Arena, I'm working off a phone. I can't see what was all. I can't remember what's all in my report. But anyway, the value of the tendering and overseeing the project is I think is high for what they're requesting. And in their proposal of the expenses, they the expenses they couldn't fulfill the 3 generators that we had in the ICIP fund. And basically, I think with us taking it over, it's going to be well, it's in there, $40,000 savings, because basically it's the generators are set up, and after that, like electrical contractors, they have to follow the regulation. And basically what we'll be doing as Public Works would be installing the base, doing the trenching, put the conduit in like we did in at the Finch Arena. So I think we can actually, what the main goal here is to get backup generators for the 3 water plants in our villages, so we don't go through that problem we had last year with the power outage and all this. But it's still going to be 6 to 8 months to get a generator before. So if we go now and basically follow what they proposed in their design to get contractors to bid on the installation and purchase of the generators, I think we'll be just fine with our experience of doing the Finch Arena.
And with the ICIP funding, do we maintain the same fund? Like, we're not losing out on any funding because we're doing it, or partly like the bases and stuff
Yeah.
ourselves?
Yeah. Yes, and I think I was talking to Craig and Mary, and I know if we can save more, like we can get reimbursed for all our outside costs. If I gotta buy concrete, buy a gravel, this and that could be acceptable under the grant. I've seen before, and I don't know if Mary wants to back me up here, but I've seen before, if you had a surplus and you put it back into something related to most likely the water system, whatever, lots of time that money's already granted to the municipality. And if you put a report in asking for, what am I thinking of, Mary? Redesignating whatever money you have left over to do this, improving that system. It's in the years I've been around, it's always been accepted.
That's all, like, that's where I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So let's make sure, I don't want to lose out because now we're doing it and we're losing out on it. So.
Oh, well, right now, the
can be-
proposal is, they can't, the proposal that was brought in by a firm, they like Don approached me when they got the engineering report back. She said, we can't buy 3 generators. I said, no, well, anyway, I won't go anymore.
No, that's good. Any questions from members of council? Deputy Mayor Densham.
I just kind of want to agree with you, Mr. Mayor, that I think what would be helpful, it's good to know the bottom line, the fact that potentially we're saving $40,000, but if we kind of had it spelt out, we say this is the amount of the ICIP grant, here's what it was supposed to cover, here's what the quote is, here's how we're gonna, just so we know that we're spending on it. It would save a lot of the questions.
I know where you're coming from, Deputy Mayor. We didn't really want to give that out because there's a identifiable company name on it. So I didn't want to get into a situation where, no, that they said it's Class B estimate and all this stuff. I just basically, Aqua supported us to fulfill this position. Aqua Engineering had no concern of us taking this project over. And, I'm just trying to be cautious not to make stuff public where people are going to question the.
Fair enough.
Thank you. No other questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the version. Motion's carried. Moving on to item 7.6, budget amendment for Avamore Hall and Chrysler Fire Hall construction.
That council approves the first budget amendment in the amount of $15,000 from reserves in order to pay invoices for the damages incurred from the water damage at Avonmore Fire Station. The second amendment is finance transfer from reserves 2022 that was set up last year in the amount of $15,000. This does not come from the fire department reserves and was an internal transaction to decrease the tax levy requirements for this year for budgetary purposes. Moved by Councilor McDonald, second by Deputy Mayor Densham.
So, because maybe I can step in. So basically we had water damage. So the water system at the Avonmore Fire Hall was back in the day was put on over top of the mezzanine with the kitchen underneath. There was a leak, which basically went through the second floor, the floor of the mezzanine into the kitchen and did damage. When it was first assessed, didn't appear to be, and still it isn't. So what our deductible is, I believe, from our insurance. And so the item was where Public Works stepped in to do the work. What kind of caught us, so there was about the new water system that was kind of brought, which was moved now to the lower floor onto which was an unforeseen expense, which falls into that 15,000. So before I go, is there any discussions from that? Maybe they can answer a little better.
Well, the recommendation, I just don't understand the last sentence. This does not come from the fire department reserves as it was an internal so where's the money coming from, I guess is my question. And is it now hitting the tax levy? Is that what we're saying?
And I'm sorry, sir, to the chair, this is the portion that Carly did for us while I was preparing the budget amendment for the Avonmore damage. She introduced the second portion. This is something she had set up last year's budget and transferred over to this year. It had to do with financing and everything else of the construction. This is not related to the Avonmore Fire Hall. This is related to the parts of construction. And to be clear, I was very clear that I wasn't quite understanding of the transaction, but she was very clear that this was an administrative general voucher type thing. Any clearer, I have to send an email and specific questions to the previous treasurer, but I can't answer that question. It was understood that it may be self-explanatory, but that's as far as I can answer. It is not coming. All she said is that it wasn't coming from our reserves. It was something that was done last year in comparison and readiness for this year for the construction. And we did start the construction last year, so I'm not sure. I can see a little way to clarify that, but that's.
Well, my understanding from this is exactly that. It's just a carryover of amount of money from last year's budget that wasn't spent.
Okay, I get that.
Yeah.
I wish it was written that way.
Yes.
Sorry.
That's good. Thank you.
So I have one more comment, but I'll finish off questions from the floor in regards to the amendments. Is there anything to add, as Mary, as far as like for the Avonmore? Is it basically for the water damage and what that implicates? Is there any questions from council?
Maybe just a little bit, because I'm just trying to look at the numbers based on how they're written here. Our deductible is $10,000. The water system alone was about 9,500 and which brings us up to 15. So why are we not going through insurance if we're still?
Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think the water system was part of it.
Yeah.
At when we didn't go to insurance, because it was gonna be well under the
Yeah.
$10,000 deductible, and we were the water system is Blake, can you?
Yeah, to prevent any, well, whenever it was engineering design, back 07, 08, they put because we had the Endless Bay and, we had the pool, so we had to have drinkable water. So they put a UV system in there and the pressure, but they put it on the second floor. So I don't know whoever decided to do that. So the water system, what we had to do was rearrange all the components so this will never happen again. Because the UV system, where it works, it's a glass tube, and this has happened before. The overall, we didn't spend a lot of money on the repairs to the building. I think there's a little bit more we have to do. But to prevent any future damage, like I think we got lucky whenever the firemen went in there not too long after the system was worked on, and the glass fixture failed, which is unforeseeable because it's in a tube. Awkward does the maintenance. You can't tell, and it never leaked whenever they were there. So if it was stressed on it and it cracked after they left, we got lucky where firemen went in and seen the leak before it ran all weekend or all week or something. So we said we should at this point eliminate the future of more damage occurring with this system, that it won't happen again. So if that's
So then if we were gonna go through insurance, we would have had to go back to the same system. That's the only thing they would have covered.
no, they wouldn't cover the relocating of the water system. Insurance,
They
yeah.
they would have to go back to the way it was.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's a simple way.
So seeing no further questions, all in favor of the budget amendments? Motion is carried. And if I can take the opportunity, so in regards to budget amendments, where we usually tend or deal with our treasurer, and I failed to mention, I believe at the last meeting, she was still with us. So Carly has left us, had submitted her resignation, and is looking at, so she's taken time off to spend with her kids. She wants to finalize and get her CPA, which she's going to do. In the meantime, she was thinking of doing a French course to get her bilingualism. So all in all, I just want to make it known that Carly resigned, is at home, so she didn't go anywhere else. It's not so I would like to thank her for the services of the work that she's done for us. And I just, with the last meeting, she was I believe on Zoom, but it should have been on my part to make the announcement and not have it perceived as, oh, where's Carly gone? Did we do this, do that? So no, Carly was a valued member of our team. She has decided to be with her kids at their young age, get her accreditations for CPA, and I wish her all the best in the world. So good luck on her next venture. With that said, moving on to item 7.7, change in software system for bylaw.
That council receives the report for information purposes. The changes will be brought for budget consideration, and for time management, I'm providing some background and reasoning for the changes. Moved by Deputy Mayor Densham, second by Councillor McDonald.
Any questions? Deputy Mayor Densham.
I guess I'm just trying to understand this in the big picture. Like we've had software in the past and it never seems to get fulfill what it is that we want to do. So now we're looking at another piece of software, and how do we know that this one's going to do what it's going? So a few questions. How do we know that this one's going to do everything that we hope it's going to do? Second of all, it sounds like there's potentially an opportunity for other departments, correct me if I'm wrong here, to use this software. Have we consulted with the other departments? Why have they decided that they want to go on it as well? Will that give us cost saving? If not, why not? I guess third is, who else uses this? Like, do other municipalities use this? I guess maybe you can just give us a big overview, Nancy,
Sure.
and help us understand that.
Absolutely, Deputy Mayor, through the chair. As you are aware, we have been having discussions about software and the multitude of them and their uses. The other thing that we've been discussing is services online and payments online. The other issue has been and is now the dog licensing, parking, and animal control has become a bigger issue in our township that it's grown as a problem. In looking at the stats and looking at the complaints and looking at what we could and could not do with our system, we've had a lot of training. Julie and I, and have been attending other municipalities, and this system fell into my hands as they were working with it. So the township of Russell and Ambram have been using the systems, and there's other townships as well that have been using the system. Other departments are quite welcome to use it as well as a complaint system. And that'll be up to them to join in. I know that I think the roads department is considering it, but it won't change the cost, because what I'm taking away will just reduce the cost of their current system. Is it being used to their full potential? No. But my point was to merge and reduce some of our costs for software and offer the services online and payment online. So the dog tags couldn't be done online with our current system. We did have and are looking at going live with an open air system, but that would have been a separate system and a separate payment system. And this, with the parking issues, we're going to have to start thinking about enforcement, a little bit more strict enforcement, more so than educational enforcement on the parking issues, more so in the winter season. Obviously, it's becoming more and more problematic. So in looking at it, the greater picture, this system can help me and issue tickets right from the software to a portable printer on site. So I wouldn't have to buy a separate system, and it would be digitized. And our bylaw, and I've attached it for your review, and our fines would be incorporated into this system and would be able to be used in North Stormont. Secondly, oops, sorry, go ahead.
I just have a question. Go ahead. Would this be compatible with Vadim, or does that involve some data entry as well?
This system is going to be separate from Vadim. There's going to be a bit of data entry for the dog tags. Everything else will be going, so that parking tickets will be going to the courthouse. It could be paid online directly here or the courthouse. That won't change. We're not going to do in-house for that. So we are still looking, and the fire permits, regardless of what we're going to do with the fire department, should it grow as it is now, the open air permits will be actually paid online and through the system, which is the open air is enforced by bylaw. It's managed by fire, but it's enforced by bylaw. So that'll help facilitate that. The fines will be entered as there as well, but it's just it won't be issuing tickets, just for parking. So when you look at the combination, so we'll be able to have more, hopefully have the residents able to facilitate their getting their dog tags online. People don't want to miss work for $20, $25 and come to the office for that. So we're hoping to increase. We've had a lot of lost dogs, and we've had a lot of returns that were problematic because we didn't have that tag. Secondly, the parking issues, like I said, we have gone educational. And the roads department are calling me more and more in the winter for problematic parking. So hopefully that will help facilitate that transition. And for complaints, it's user friendly. more, it facilitates our work, and it's still available online. And I've seen other departments use it. It's user-friendly. It'll be user-friendly for the other departments, and it'll be up to them whether they join in or not. I think their intent is to, and how they handle complaints versus how I handle complaints is two different things, and I'm not sure how they do. But it'll be up to them. But there'll be no added cost to what the current cost is, except for the initial purchase of the printer. Because we're currently paying the same amount of money. So that's the intent. So we're purging and merging.
Yeah. In my career, I've seen and worked with and purchased a lot of software. And it never goes as easy as you expect. So in that respect, you want to do it right the first time. You want to be sure you have the right software. And like I say, if there's the opportunity for other departments to use it as well, I would almost want them to assess that before, because if there's a better system that will service everybody, like I think the urgency here is right now, and I agree with you, it feels like we're spending more money than we need to when we could get a better system cheaper. And that's great. It's the right way to make a decision. I'm just wondering if we're making the decision is too soon. We haven't vetted it across the organization. Like I support the intent. I just don't want us to end up buying something where, you know, you've spent the time training yourself, training your staff, and then everybody wants to go with something else that would have been done just as good or even better that could have been integrated, and you end up having to do it again. That would be my only concern. So I don't know if there's a way to review this internally before pulling the trigger on it.
I have requested other departments. We have requested their feedback, and we haven't received any. So I'm not sure how they're gonna go forward with it. That's why I'm saying I'm not sure how they're gonna go about it, because we'd certainly like to move forward. Otherwise, we're gonna have to look at something else for dog tags. We're gonna have to look at something else for parking. And that's why it's brought to the table. But I can certainly, maybe if the CAO wants to and council wants me to go further, then that's what we'll do.
I'll jump in. It's basically in the same. So my view is I've got, and Nancy, it's an old song, but we've had Fire had a software that was supposed to, didn't pan out. So I know it can go not as planned, and the hope is there that they sing their song and everything looks great until you're trying to implement it. My thing is there's three things I've been taught. So the new webpage that was going out there had talked about online payments for your dog tag, your garbage tag. You come in for a fire permit. That's all stuff that you could potentially do. But when I talk to not fire or bylaw, when I talk to finance, the treasurer would always say, well, it's not compatible. And right now we're not. That's what we need to hear, is that they're saying, yes, it's compatible. We can get this done. Second is the roads or public works, fire, bylaw are saying, hey, is there avenues where the software can help? And last is IT is taken care of by counties, but to get Mr. Saint-Onge to say, you know, or not just to get all 6 other municipalities, we're all driving to the same issues. And I'm thinking, is the other 6 municipalities looking at what you're looking at, or are we the first one? That's what I want to know, because why are they not looking at where we are, or vice versa? So there's a lot of questions that you're kind of, and to when we do make the decision, to have something that can substantiate our decision and say, hey, this is where the direction we're going to take. So I don't know if you can see where I'm going with this, but.
And I agree. I did check with the other township. I did meet with other townships. They have, a lot of the townships have AMPS, the South Stormont have AMPS, so it's in-house. You need an MTO contract, you need this, you need that. There's a lot of work involved. There's a lot of follow-up. We don't have the staff resources to do that, quite honestly. We need a person just for that. Parking, simply alone, follow up, the driver's license, the everything. It's very complicated. I know a lot of the townships use the current system we have. The current system was here when I started. I've said it from the start. I didn't like it for whatever my reasons of how I use it. And I may not be using it to its full potential. But if I look at the different systems that they're using for parking and this and that, I'm not sure what happened with financing and compatibility with the system or not, except for the dog tax. It's just not moving forward. And we need to move forward. We've had barely any dog tags registrations in the last 2 years. So I don't disagree. I did do some research with other townships. They are currently different ones. But this one just served our purpose. So I went with that. A lot of townships use it. Prescott Russell, like I said, is one. And it's on their website and it's working very well for them as well. We've sat down with them, we've reviewed it, how they use it and the potential of it. We've spoken to the fire chiefs in the area, how they use it for open air and how it's functioning for them. But I didn't check locally because like what we did check is individually systems, parking and bylaw and so forth. So I'd have to do more intense research if that's what you want me to do.
Councillor McDonald.
I think it's great that you're working on this. It's really important to get it all online, and I think it's great that you're going and trying it from people like Prescott Russell's great, Russell, Embrun. I was gonna echo the same comments that I know the county has got a new position, a staff position that's designed to actually go out and meet with municipalities that they're sort of servicing. Yeah, and I know that, and in my experience working with her, she's really great to sit down. So if that resource is available to help you, because you do a lot. And I know it's like Steve said, there's so much out there and it's so hard to make a choice. So if the county's got someone who you might be able to chat with, maybe avail yourself of that resource. But other than that, I know we're all in the same boat. We want to get something working for the residents to make services easier to obtain. So overall supportive of what you're trying to do, but I think if the county's is there to help too, let's ask them. That's all.
So seeing no further questions, so go ahead.
Can I suggest that we defer this? I would at least.
Well, it's not,
Is it just a report?
we're just information purposes
Okay.
and it will be brought up to budget. So that can be further discussed and directions given.
I have 2 months.
Yeah. That's what I was exactly just about to say when you, anyway, so we're again accepting the report for information purposes. Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion's carried. Moving on to 7.8, engineering and architectural services for the school renovations.
That council approved the request from the acting CAO clerk to hire Eastern Engineering Group for architectural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, structural, and contract administration at a quoted price of $73,400 plus HST for the renovations to the former Berwick Public School into municipal offices and council chambers. Moved by Councillor McDonald, second by Deputy Mayor Densham.
Thank you. So as I said earlier, we need to move. So this was put on to our SMT regular weekly meeting just to keep the ball, or not the ball rolling, to roll basically is what I'm getting at. So this is a big step of the engineer, contractor and architect to move forward on our progress. Any questions? Councillor Bajaj.
Yeah, so I see that 3 different companies were asked to put bids forward. Did all 3? No. So did we, how many were received, and is this considerably lower on as far as scales go?
We only received 2 responses, and this one is $9,000 cheaper than the other one.
Any further questions? Seeing none. Go ahead. Deputy Mayor Densham.
Hesitating. Yeah, I know we've used this group in the past and specifically on Moose Creek. And I guess what I want to understand is, have we, in whatever contract we're proposing to put together with this one, have we made any adjustments so that we can be sure on the scope and the deliverables and the timing of the project? We want to move quickly on this one. And I know, we didn't move as quickly as we wanted to in some areas, for various reasons. I'm not suggesting anything by that, for various reasons with the Moose Creek Hall. But I just want to be sure that, we've learned from our last one that if we're supporting this, we're well equipped in our contract to be sure that, we expressed the necessary urgency of the project.
Yes, I have indicated that to the engineer and to the architect. The architect is, felt that we probably wouldn't have our drawings until January. And I basically said that sort of that wasn't acceptable. That we already have our floor plan. And they did do a walkthrough. That was part of the requirement. In order for them to bid, they had to do a walkthrough. So I'm thinking that they probably have a better idea now that maybe the timing doesn't have to be that long. Tomorrow they're going to get their approval if council approves this request. So, the clock is going to start ticking and they're going to have to deal with a very impatient Mary.
Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting the proposal? Motion is carried. Moving into our municipal bylaws, so the three zonings that took place earlier tonight, starting with 8.1, 77-2023.
Be it resolved that bylaw 77-2023 being a bylaw to change the zoning of certain lands in the township of North Stormont and amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 08-2014 from the residential first density R1 zone to the residential second density R2 zone, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 14th day of November 2023. Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Deputy Mayor Densham.
Thank you. Any questions further questions to Mr. Young? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. Moving on to 8.2, bylaw 78-2023.
Be it resolved that bylaw number 78-2023 being a bylaw to change the zoning of certain lands in the township of North Stormont and amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 08-2014 from the residential first density R1 zone to general commercial special exception 18 holding CG-18-H zone. Be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 14th day of November 2023. Moved by Deputy Mayor Densham, seconded by Councillor Vigelli.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion's carried. Mark, I know you got a long drive ahead of you, so if you want to get going. Yeah. No, so lastly, go 8.3, bylaw number 79-2023.
Be it resolved that bylaw 79-2023 being a bylaw to change the zoning of certain lands in the township of North Stormont and amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 08-2014 from the rural RU zone to rural special exception 29 RU-29. Be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 14th day of November 2023. Moved by Councillor Vigelli, seconded by Deputy Mayor Densham.
And lastly, any further discussions? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. 8.4, bylaw number 80-2023.
Be it resolved that bylaw number 80-2023 being a bylaw to accept a deed of land and to dedicate the land as a public highway be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed this 14th day of November 2023. Moved by Deputy Mayor Densham, seconded by Councillor Vigelli.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, are all in favor? Motion's carried. And bylaw 81-2023.
Be it resolved that bylaw number 81-2023 being a bylaw to accept land and to dedicate the land as a public highway be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed this 14th day of November 2023. Moved by Councillor Vigelli, seconded by Deputy Mayor Densham.
Thank you. So before I had questions, because I see where Chopin Street was in existence before I was born, and now we're dedicating this as a public highway. So I don't know if it's just housekeeping.
Yes, because someone is conveying land on Champagne Street, it was found that the street was never dedicated as a public highway historically. So
Now, all the costs, because I've got surveys that show a bylaw number 8, I believe 92 or 842 on this. I didn't have time. It was too late for me coming here to go and research it. Are there any costs to the township to do this, or is that on?
No, that's the developer that's going to be paying for this.
Okay,
Yeah.
so perfect. Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion's carried. Moving on to unfinished business 9.1.
Be it resolved that after further reviewing of the plans and discussion with staff of the new township office building, council has decided that they require more space than was first designed. And further, that council has decided not to accept the proposal from the food share group at this time and will proceed with negotiations with the daycare group for the extra space. Moved by Councillor Vagelli, seconded by Councillor McDonald.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Dencham.
No, it's always a tough decision when we have to make choices like this. I want to thank the food share for their interest, and I'm hoping we'll continue to keep an eye open for a potential place that might we might suit them better and suit us better. I'm happy to see that, you know, we're really creating some positive momentum on the daycare. I think it's a very much needed service, and I know that the public expressed this during the campaign. Even though it's outside of our purview of jurisdiction, I'm really happy that we've been able to kind of help facilitate that process and have a lot of optimism for that. So I think it's the right decision, and hopefully we can keep our eyes open for a suitable place for the food share in the months to come.
So by no means do we not think that it is a valued and the work that they do in our municipality, but I think it's just the fit. And as Deputy Mayor Dencham mentioned, we are going to definitely keep on looking, see if there's any way possible that we could come to an agreement somewhere else. But it's something that is not off the table. We'll still keep on hopefully working with them for their future needs. So all in favor of the motion that was read? Motion is carried. Now, moving on to correspondence. If anybody had the chance to sit down and read all this correspondence, for future use, I had the discussion today with our deputy clerk. So there's going to be a review in respect to how we, I believe, like myself, and we would have to see all of council, but some of the correspondence comes directly to council. AMO being one of them. I get it. I'm not sure if all of council, but there's stuff in there that we can maybe, it's just that it makes it for a fairly hefty agenda to read when you've got 386 pages. And some stuff are not necessarily reading through all of it, but you don't want to come to a meeting not prepared. So you kind of have to at least go through it. So that's something that I'm going to work with.
There's stuff in there that I wrote myself.
Yes. So all that said, we do have the correspondence in front of us. Any discussions in regards to items? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Dencham.
Yeah, just a couple of highlights in here. And one I mentioned already earlier, the SDG collision stats done by Mike Jans as well. Like I say, that's a really good read. You almost need to go through it. And again, I know, Nancy, and you said you'd follow up with Mike on that one. It may be worth having him come in and do the presentation if the mayor agrees. I found it really helpful. It still applies to our municipality, except the scope of what Mike has done is just the county roads and the intersections. Whether if the intersections included a county road, whether it was a municipal road or 2 county roads, it was included in that. And I think it would just give a good sense as to. I see Blake wants to say something on that one, but it was really good for me to take that in as a councillor at the county table. So Blake, did you want to?
I was talk with the county engineer several years ago on certain intersections, stuff like that. Yes, but we don't get the police reports. Years ago, we used to get the reports. Now, basically, the public might let me know that a car went through an intersection, took a sign down like today. come across an accident someplace, but indirectly, we don't have the knowledge
No,
to know, to ask the questions, what happened, where it happened. And lots of times it's noted by some debris left on the side of the road.
yeah, and so if the police were called, so this is kind of the magic of what Mike was able to have happen, is he actually was able to download from the system, I don't know whether it's OPPs or what they have access to through that, to pull that in, parse the data, run it through a database, find keywords that say, was there a fatality, was there so on and so forth. Again, I think it might be a good idea just to have Mike come in and do his presentation, and then we can ask him those questions as well. I think it is something that you might be able to leverage without you doing all the work. Like he has software with the assistance of Mike St. Owens. She has software that can comb through that data and organize it and output it into categorized information. So I think it has potential anyhow. It would be worth looking at. The other thing that I spotted in there as well was a letter from Winchester District Memorial Hospital about a letter of support. And I know Charlie has reached out to the mayor individually, and I very much support sending out a letter of support for an MRI machine that they're looking to raise funds for and have. And I think that would, again, add some very, very important services more locally. They do a great job at Winchester Hospital. I'm a little biased because I sit on that board as well, but they do some really, really good work. And I think it would be worthwhile if council agrees that we support them with a letter of support for an MRI machine.
I was gonna bring that forward as well, so it's something I'd like to see if we can bring that back and have administration bring back the letter of support for next council meeting. Councilor Bajilla.
If I could just speak on that, actually, I was speaking to Charlie and forwarded him a letter of support from my day job. It may be something we would like to move a motion now, because I know it is time sensitive for him. Pushing it to after we're back on the 20th might be.
We already got confirmation from Charlie
Okay.
that the next meeting is
By the end of the
good.
month, okay.
Because there was discussion on possibly bringing it up, and then, but we're good for timeline, so. Any other discussions on correspondence? Seeing none, all in favor of receiving correspondence? Oh, let's try to read the motion first.
Be it resolved that the correspondence as listed as items 12.1 to 12.22 on the agenda be received, moved by Deputy Mayor Denton, seconded by Councillor Bajelli.
Again, so no further questions, all in favor of the motion. Motion's carried. Moving on, so our next scheduled meeting will be taking place November 28th and December the 12th. So we are going to be going into a closed session. Yeah.
Be it resolved that this meeting adjourned to a closed session for the following reasons. As per section 239, a meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered is a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. Moved by Deputy Mayor Denton, seconded by Councillor Bajelli.
Any discussion? None, all in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. So just to announce that we will be going into closed and we will not be streaming as we come back into open session. Everyone have a good night. Thank you.